Okay, this is the video for Level 1, Chapter 5, Section 2, Grammar. The specific concept is gefallen and the dative pronouns. So this video should help you understand gefallen and then how it works with the pronouns and where to place words and all that stuff. So we will begin with the conjugation of gefallen. Now, what I want you to know is that it means to appeal to, technically. But we're going to be using the English translations as to like. So when you see the conjugations here, we're actually only going to be using the bottom two, the ones that are in green. The other four, the orange ones, these we're not going to use so much. The reason is because you would be saying something like, I appeal to you, if you said, ich gefalle dir. And when you do that, it's kind of like saying you like someone more than a friend. So we're not going to use that. You could, but in this section and for our sake, we're going to be talking about inanimate objects and how you like clothing and that sort of thing. So make sure that you write down the verb chart, but note that the bottom two, er, sie, es gefällt, and sie gefallen, those are the important ones. So these are some example sentences. Because we're going to be using this kind of strange word order and meaning, our sentences, if we were to translate them to English, would be something like, it appeals to me, which basically means I like it. Or the shoes appeal to me, which means I like the shoes. Or do the socks appeal to you, which would mean something like, do you like the socks? And how does the skirt appeal to you, meaning how do you like the skirt? So that's why it says essentially it is to like. When you use this in sentences and need to write with it, you need to know the dative pronouns. And in this case, I have put the nominative and dative up. Nominative you should already know. These are the words from the verb chart. So ich, du, er, sie, es, wir, ihr, sie, und sie. And when we use the dative pronouns, so it's a different case, it's the indirect object case, and they switch to mir, dir, ihm, ihr, ihm, uns, euch, ihnen, and ihnen. So when we use these, it essentially means to me or for me. So in this case, we're saying to me. So in our examples here on the right, number 1 says, mir gefällt das T-shirt, which means to me appeals the t-shirt. Essentially, I like the t-shirt. Number 2, das T-shirt gefällt mir. Again, it basically means I like the t-shirt, but we use a reverse order. The t-shirt appeals to me. Now you will notice that both of these sentences are correct, but our subject in blue switched positions with the indirect object or dative case pronoun in orange. The verb remains between them in second position. So it's acceptable to do this either way. The dative pronoun can either be in front or at the end, just like it is here, when we're making a general statement using the noun. We can also do the same with pronouns. In the subject case, that is. Number 3, das Hemd gefällt mir nicht. This is an example of a negative sentence, meaning I do not like the shirt, or the shirt does not appeal to me. All you have to do to make it negative is put nicht after your subject, verb, and indirect object. Number 4 is again similar. Die Turnschuhe gefallen mir nicht. This time we're using a plural noun. So we're saying I do not like the shoes or the sneakers. Because sneakers is plural and the verb gefallen actually means appeals to or to appeal to, die Turnschuhe gefallen is the plural form of the verb. So it has to match the subject, which in this case is sneakers. So it is plural. The only thing that's going to change is the mir, and that will change based on who likes them. Okay, so this is an opposite way of thinking about the English I like it or I like them, because it means appeals to. All right, so number 5, gefallen sie dir? Do you like them? I'd like to point out that because we are using two pronouns, the subject pronoun comes first, followed by the dative pronoun. So the nominative and then the dative. The verb is first because it's a question. In number 6, gefällt dir der Rock? This is a little different. We have essentially the same thing, but this time our dative pronoun is first and the subject is after that. So this is an example of a time, unlike what I told you before, where the subject should always be next to the verb. This is the example where the subject is not next to the verb. And we'll find out why on the next slide. But before we do that, we're going to go through the rest of our examples. So number 7 is almost exactly like number 6, except this time we used a pronoun to replace the skirt. So instead of saying, do you like the skirt, we're saying, do you like it? And this time the pronoun is before, the subject pronoun is before the dative pronoun, and it's also next to the verb. Here it wasn't because it's in a noun form, not a pronoun form. And like I said, I'll explain this a little bit more on the next slide, but pay attention to that. Number 8, we have wie gefällt dir die Jacke? What I want you to pay attention to here is the word wie. And we're using wie because we're saying, how do you like the jacket? Or how does the jacket appeal to you? In number 9, we have wie gefällt sie dir? How do you like it? Or how does it appeal to you? And number 10, mir gefallen sie? I like them, or they appeal to me. And number 11, sie gefallen mir? They appeal to me, or I like them. Okay? So we can switch when we're making statements, the dative pronoun and the subject pronoun. So there are a few rules to follow when you're using these dative pronouns. And number 1, when you use a dative pronoun, it can and often is before the verb and subject. So here are some examples. In A here, 1A, we see mir gefällt das Hemd, where we have our dative pronoun first, right here, mir, and then our subjects at the end. You can say it the other way. You can say das Hemd gefällt mir. Both are acceptable. But you'll often see it with the dative pronoun in the front. And that's just because it's kind of emphasizing that it's appealing to you. Number 2, when we use a dative pronoun in a question, it must go either next to the verb or after the subject. So 2A says if the subject is a pronoun, the subject goes next to the verb followed by the dative pronoun. And the example is gefällt sie dir? And because our subject is sie, in this case meaning it, the feminine version of it, we are putting that before the dative pronoun and next to the verb. If the subject is a noun, the subject goes after the dative pronoun, which is next to the verb. So here we have our dative pronoun, dir, followed by our noun, die Hose. And although it's the subject, die Hose, it is not next to the verb. And that's because we have a rule in German, and that is that a pronoun always precedes a noun. So when we're using two pronouns, we put the subject pronoun next to the verb. But when we just have one, that pronoun needs to come before the actual noun. Okay, so remember the rule, a pronoun always precedes a noun. Okay, here are some examples for you to try. They are all in English, and I'd like you to translate them to German. When you are doing this, pay attention to whether or not you're using pronouns or using nouns, because that could change the word order if it is a question especially. I will let you pause the video now so that you can write these down and try the practice examples, and then in a couple seconds the answers will be revealed. So make sure you pause it if you're going to do the activity. Okay, number 1, mir gefällt das Hemd. Alright, so we have our dative pronoun first, then our verb, then our subject. You can reverse this. You can say das Hemd gefällt mir. That is also acceptable. The same applies to number 2, uns gefällt der Rock. You could say der Rock gefällt uns. This time we're using uns because we're saying we like the skirt, or the skirt is pleasing to us, or is appealing to us. Number 3, gefällt dir die Hose? This time we have a noun, and remember that pronouns always precede a noun, so we got to put our pronoun first, even though it's not the subject. Right, so it's not the subject going next to the verb this time. Number 4, wie gefallen dir die Stiefel? So how do the boots appeal to you? Or how do you like the boots? Number 5, using it, the masculine form. I like it, or it is appealing to me. Gefällt mir. Number 6, gefallen sie dir? This time we have two pronouns. So remember, when we have two pronouns, a subject pronoun and a dative pronoun, we're going to now put our subject pronoun back with our verb, like we have here, sie and gefallen. Sie is the subject, gefallen is the verb. And number 7, gefallen dir die Socken? This one's a little different because now we have now we have the one pronoun, the dative pronoun, and our subject written as a noun. So again, like up here, we're going to put our dative pronoun before the noun. Okay? Hopefully this video helps you out. If you still have questions, please come see me.